Damascus. It's one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the entire world. It's seen empires rise and it's seen them fall. But the conflict that started in the 21st century, well, that would test its resilience in ways no one could have predicted. And it all centers around one figure.
And at the heart of this story is a man who was never really supposed to rule. His life's path was completely changed by fate. So we're going to examine the presidency of Bashar al-Assad and the war that has come to define his time in power.
You see, Bashar al-Assad wasn't born to be a politician. His father, Hafez al-Assad, had ruled Syria since 1970, but Bashar's path was medicine. In the early 90s, he was living in London, training to become an ophthalmologist, an eye doctor, completely removed from the centers of power back in Damascus.
The future of Syria, as everyone understood it, was meant for Bashar al-Assad, Bashar's older brother. Bashar was the charismatic one, publicly groomed to take over. Bashar, on the other hand, was known as quiet, reserved, an academic who was building a life far away from the state his father had built.
But then, in 1994, everything changed. Bashar died in a car crash. Bashar was immediately called back from London. His medical career was over. For the next 6 years, he was quickly pushed into the military and political system. And when his father died in 2000, the constitution was literally changed to lower the minimum age for a president. And just like that, 34-year-old Bashar al-Assad was in charge.
At first, there was actually a lot of cautious optimism about his presidency, both inside Syria and around the world. He talked about modernization, about opening things up, and for a short time, there was this period known as the Damascus Spring, where political debate was actually tolerated, even if just a little.
But that opening didn't last long. By 2001, the state's powerful security apparatus made its authority clear again. Prominent reformists were arrested, political discussion groups were shut down. The message was unmistakable. Any change was going to be on the government's terms, not a real shift in the structure of power.
Okay, let's fast forward a decade. The whole region was being transformed. In 2011, this wave of protests called the Arab Spring was sweeping across the Middle East and North Africa. And in Syria, demonstrations started with people calling for economic and political reforms, a lot like what was happening in other countries. The escalation from there was incredibly fast and devastating. The government responded to the initially peaceful protests with force. This only fueled more opposition, which then led to some people taking up arms. And within just a few months, what started as civil unrest had spiraled into a full-scale civil war.
Now, this conflict wasn't a simple two-sided affair between the government and one opposition group. Not at all. Syria quickly fractured, becoming this incredibly complex battlefield with a whole host of players, both from inside and outside the country.
It got very complicated very quickly. On the ground, you had government forces, a whole collection of different armed opposition groups, Islamist militias like ISIS, and distinct Kurdish forces. The internal fight soon became a proxy war, with foreign powers getting involved. Russia and Iran backed the government, while the US, Turkey, and others gave support to various opposition groups. Syria basically became a key battleground for regional geopolitics. A really significant turning point happened in August of 2013. Reports came out about a massive chemical weapons attack in Ghouta, a suburb of Damascus. International investigations pointed to the government being responsible, though the Syrian government denied it. The event caused widespread international outrage and seriously ramped up the diplomatic pressure. The long-term impact of this war has been, to put it mildly, catastrophic. When you look at the objective data, the human and physical toll is just immense. Let's start with the human cost. Now, exact figures are almost impossible to verify in a war zone, but credible estimates from multiple monitoring groups all place the death toll in the hundreds of thousands. And beyond those who died, the conflict created one of the largest displacement crises of modern times. Millions of Syrians have been forced out of their homes. They're either refugees inside Syria itself, or they fled to other countries. The physical destruction is just staggering. You have urban centers like Aleppo, which were once these thriving hubs of culture and commerce,
And now, entire neighborhoods have been leveled by years of fighting, airstrikes, and shelling.
In response to the conflict and the documented human rights abuses, the international community, especially the United States, imposed severe economic sanctions. The Caesar Act from 2020 is one of the most comprehensive ones, and it's designed to economically isolate the Assad government.
So where does that leave things today? Well, Bashar al-Assad is still in power over key parts of the country, but Syria itself is a fractured state. His government is propped up by critical military and economic help from allies like Russia and Iran, all while facing a massive economic crisis and political isolation from much of the world.
You know, Bashar al-Assad didn't create the system of power that he leads. He inherited it. But the events of his presidency, from that initial brief promise of reform to over a decade of devastating war, they raise a really fundamental question about leadership and consequence, a question whose answer is still being written in the lives of millions of Syrians.